Dune Part 2 is directed by Denis Villeneuve and stars Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides, who unites with Chani and the Fremen while seeking revenge against the conspirators who destroyed his family. Now, I really loved the first Dune film. I really thought it was a great film. I thought the characters were interesting, the story engaging, the world building very creative, and overall the direction stellar. So how does Denis Villeneuve hold up to now? I think he might have outdone himself with this one. Dune Part 2 is phenomenal. If you had any problems with Part 1, they are most likely rectified for you here, and this movie pays off all the promises of the previous film by pushing the story forward in very engaging ways that build upon the foundations laid previously. It gives us a much darker look into this world that Paul Atreides finds himself in as he starts to navigate his new life with the Fremen, trying to come to terms with becoming a Messiah figure, and how this is conflicting him, how it's affecting his family, more so his mother, who is going through a bit of changes this time around, which I will not spoil about because it's very interesting. And if you haven't read the books or anything, which I haven't, I think this is going to be leaving you with a big surprise with what they do with her character. I really love how that pays off something from the previous film that was built up, which is one of the major reasons why I love this as a sequel. It really does continue on the story in a natural way, answering many of the questions, at least the most important ones that we had previously, and giving us answers that left us satisfied. The performances all across the board are great. Timothée Chalamet is fantastic as Paul Atreides. I think he's even better here, mostly due to his character having a lot more nuance, having a lot more going on. There's just something about him that just isn't really right. Something that is turning him to a much darker character, and I won't spoil what, but I really like how this character is taken through a different sort of Messiah path that is not usually what we see in many of these big hero movies, where a prophecy is telling us this hero is going to come in and save the day. It's all going to be well and good. It's not like that. It doesn't take the easy route with that kind of premise, and I like that. And it makes our main character a lot more engaging to watch, as we don't know what is really going through his mind. I mean, we do, but it's not how we expected it to go, really, if we've seen this kind of story many times before. Maybe if you're a fan of Dune, you probably aren't that satisfied. I mean, I'm someone who hasn't read the book. I'm just speaking as someone who watches a lot of movies, and watching a story like this isn't all that often. I really like how they've done it here. Zendaya is really good. Her and Timothée Chalamet share really good chemistry. A good portion of the film is dedicated to building these characters up and forming a relationship. And that's also one of the major things why I love about the runtime. Despite it being a long movie, it earns it because it never wastes time. There's always something going on with building up the characters, building up the action, the story, having us go through things that are very important that will happen much later. And that's what I love about Denis Villeneuve's films. There's always something going on that we have to pay attention to, and that's going to lead into something a lot later in the story. And he is a master at planting seeds, letting it grow slowly, and blossoming into something beautiful. And Dune Part 2 is just another example of that. And it's not just the storytelling, his direction, the way he and Greg Fraser move the camera around all these action sequences all these big moments, all these big character moments too, where they're just talking. It is all so beautiful. I love the way this film looked, how it was shot. This is one of the best looking films I have ever seen in my life, and I really admire how the movie was able to feel real. Despite it being heavy in visual effects, nothing took me out of the film. It all felt lived in, it all felt engaging, and the scope of these big action sequences, especially at the end of the film, were fantastic. And I haven't seen action sequences this big in scope since maybe The Lord of the Rings, I'll be honest. As for the music, it is once again brilliant. I haven't mentioned this in my review for the previous film, but the score in that one by Hans Zimmer is absolutely fantastic, and it is no different here. This score gave so much atmosphere and gravitas to every single scene and moment of this film, and none of it was out of place. It all felt perfect. And I really wish I could say a lot about spoilers because I really want to talk about it, but you really just got to experience the film for yourself. As Austin Butler's character as the villain is so creepy and engaging. Not a lot of screen time, unfortunately. I would have loved to see more of him, but that is just a personal preference, just because I really love what he was able to bring to his villain character here. He is vile, he's ruthless, psychotic, and just the perfect kind of antagonist for Paul Atreides to go up against. And looking in the background behind the scenes of the bad guys and what they are planning to do and what they're trying to accomplish is just as interesting as us watching the heroes plan out how to defeat the bad guys. And each side, while having a point, there's always some sort of gray area in between that has us on the edge and having us think what is really right or wrong in these scenarios and who's really becoming the bad guy or not. And I love how the film was not like choosing one side over the other just because it's easy that way. It's showing a gray area in both, and how these two sides of the coin are really not as black and white as they seem. There's something going on that is going to lead into, well, we're probably going to get a third film, and how that is going to pay off the trilogy, I'm very interested to see. And that's not really a spoiler. The director mentioned this, that he's been working on a third movie, so I don't really consider that a spoiler, but it depends on if this movie is successful. So if this movie doesn't make enough money, then we're not getting a third movie. So please go support it. It's really good. The music is great, the action is great, the drama and writing are excellent, the scope is grand. I honestly cannot find a single problem. And because it was able to fulfill the promises of the previous film, it made that ending of the original movie a whole lot more digestible for me. And watching these two movies back to back is the best way you can watch these two movies. And overall, I just found part 2 to be a much bigger and better sequel that improves upon characterization, improves upon the action, the drama, the story, and concludes many key character moments in very interesting ways, while leaving the door open for something in the future that might happen if we let it happen. And I hope we do, because I cannot wait to see what Denis Villeneuve does next in this franchise. I'm going to give Dune Part 2 an A+. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you guys next time.